Hey guys, how you doing? I'd like to welcome you to my channel. My name is Sadia, and I hope you enjoy the live we're gonna do here today. And if you can kindly subscribe, that will also just be nice. But what we're gonna do today is configure um, VLAN Trunking Protocol. Now, what you see here basically is what is generally referred to as a switch network, and within a switch network, you have these PCs at the far end, and you have these access switches. They are basically access switches. They take network traffic from these PCs and bring them on to the central network by means of these two core switches and this main core switch we have here. So the network design is also built for redundancy. Now this is important because in the network you want to have redundant paths, wherein if there is a problem on the network, you will still have traffic going through the network even though a router or a switch may be down. Now I have a Cisco 2960 switch here serving as my core switch. I could use a layer 3 switch that could also serve the issue, but I chose to use this switch because it also have a gigabit interface, which is very important. And I have a couple of VLANs here. I just named the network by having configured anything on it yet. It's just a typical design. So as you can see up here, I have VLAN 100, VLAN 200, VLAN 300, VLAN 400, 500, and 600. And these switches here are my access switches. As you can see, switch access 2, switch access 1 is under there. And I've also shared the ports on these switches. That is important because following proper documentation and naming conventions can surely go a very long way. As you can see here, on these switches, the ports that are active, they are 23 and 24. Basically, ports assignment on the switch is not very important, but where it is important is on this access switch, because you want to have an understanding of the switches that are assigned to the VLANs coming from the very far end of the network. So you want to keep track of the ports that you're going to assign to individual VLANs. So that is also important. So as you can see, ports 01 through 4 is connected to this switch, which is coming from VLAN 100, and the same goes for 05 to 09 on the access switch coming from VLAN 200. Ports 10 through 14, as you can see right here, comes from switch coming from VLAN 300, and the same goes out through all the network. The same also goes for this switch. The same port numbers that are here are assigned the same port numbers on the redundant path on this switch. What we're going to do is configure. Eventually I'm going to build this network into a fully functional network. I'm going to have servers on this far end. I'm going to have a router, and I'm also going to have an ISP, but that's what's going to happen eventually. But for now, what we're going to do, we're going to configure the VLAN Trunking Protocol. Now, what is the VLAN Trunking Protocol? That's a good question. The VLAN Trunking Protocol is a Cisco proprietary protocol, meaning it's Cisco owned. Alright, Cisco proprietary protocol that is designed for easy network management. So with VLAN Trunking Protocol configured, you have to have a core switch, and between those switches, for instance, these links will have to be, in order for VLAN trunking protocol to work, these links will have to all be configured as trunking links. All these links will have to be configured as trunk links in order to have VLAN trunking working. Because what we're gonna do is, instead of going to individually configure VLANs on these switches, we could just use this core switch first, build a VTP domain, and then go ahead to create a VLAN database. And by doing that, with all the links coming from these switches being our trunk links, we can have the database or the configuration distributed across all those switches. This is a very important tool if you have an enterprise network, a Cisco enterprise network where you have many switches on the network, because you wouldn't have the time, even if you do, to skip mistakes. You want to have a centralized server wherein you can just do all your configuration and have all those configuration distributed across the network. So basically, that's one of the main reasons for the VLAN trunking protocol. So what we're gonna do here, you first want to configure all these links as trunk links in order to have VLAN trunking protocol working. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna have this side of the network, and we're gonna deal with these links first and enable them as trunk links. I'm not gonna name the routers or go through initial security settings. I will do that later as we go further in the designing and configuration of this network. So what you want to do, enable, and as you can see, this is a gigabit interface 01 and gigabit interface 02. So you could do range, which will be fast. So conf t interface range GRO/1 to 2. Sorry. Now you want to do switch port more trunk. That's it. That's for the core switch. That's the first step. Now the tricky part of this entire thing is, you have to understand all the ports that are connected to this switch in order to trunk them. If you can do that, that would just be great. So what we want to do, we go on this switch. For this connection here, you want to trunk this connection from, there you go. So you first want to trunk this link, because this link right here, now they are all trunk links, right? So next we have to trunk this link, and we trunk this link. So what I did was, for easy reference, this link from this switch is all on port 24. So for this link is port 24, this link right here is port 24. So that's the first thing you want to do. So enable conf t interface FA 0/24, enter, switch port more trunk. That is good. We could stay here and configure all the other ports. That is also fine. So as you can see, the first ports are the actual links. The range is what I'm going to eventually assign to the VLAN. So for instance, VLAN 100 is going to be the assigned interface ports ranging from 01 through 04. But in reality, port 01 is the only link or active port on this switch, but the range that's going to be assigned to VLAN 100 on this switch is port 01 through 04. So now the link that we're supposed to trunk, the only active link that we're supposed to trunk is port 01. That's going to link this switch which connects VLAN 100. Alright, so let's do that. So we're already in the interface, so you want to specify that interface FA01, right? And then switch tab, switch port mode trunk. That is up. Alright, now we can do the same for the next VLAN. As you can see, this link right here goes to this switch. This is access switch number 1. So for this link, I will be assigning ports 05 through 09 for this VLAN 200. But the only active link that's connecting VLAN 200 switch to this access switch 1 is port 5. So that's what you will want to trunk. So let's do that. INTFA0/5, enter, switch port mode trunk. Alright, next you want to do the same for this switch. So as you can see, that's why naming and following a proper diagram is important, because it can really get confusing as you go about this. So as you can see, VLAN 300 switch, the port that's going to be assigned to this VLAN are going to be ports 10 through 14. At the moment, there are no VLAN port assignments. We are only trunking the active ports. So for VLAN 300, the ports for VLAN 300 is port 10, that's connecting access port 1. So that's why you want to trunk. So let's do that. Interface FA0/10, switch port mode trunk. And then we'll do the same for VLAN 400, 500 and 600. So for VLAN 400 is 15. So interface FA0/15 tab mode trunk. There you go. And then you want to do the same for VLAN 500. This is port 18 on access switch 1, this switch right here. So you're going to do INTFA0/18 switch port tab mode trunk. Now the same for the last VLAN 600. This is pretty easy. This is the easiest part. 21, enter, switch port mode trunk. Now all the ports, all the active ports on switch port access 1, they are all trunk at this port level. Right, now let's move to access switch number 2. So the same port numbering is applied to this access switch. So for all the ports on this VLAN that's coming from VLAN 100 switch, VLAN 200 switch, and all the way down to 600, are the same port assignment I have assigned to this switch to make the network design easy. So we're gonna follow those same steps. Here you go. Sorry, close this one and launch this one. Now you want to do CLI. Like I said, I'm not going to enter initial configurations, but eventually we will do that. So let's just do this initial setup for VTP. You want to do enter conft. Now the same goes for ports 01 INTFA01. You want to trunk that port, switch port mode, trunk interface FA0/5, enter, switch port, tab mode, trunk. Okay, FA0/10. I hope you're following here, don't get lost. Switch port, tab mode, trunk, interface FA0/15. Alright, sorry, switch port, oh boy, more trunk. Okay, interface 15, you go to 18, that will be for VLAN 500. FA0/18, switchboard, tab mode, trunk. Alright, interface FA0/21, switchboard, mode, trunk. That is great. Now for these two switches, all the links that are coming into these switches, they are all trunked from their end. You have to repeat the steps at this end. Alright, now the way that I designed the network is, for all the ports that are linking out this way, the active ports here are ports 23 and 24. Now you don't want to trunk port FO01. There's just an access link, so you don't want to trunk it. So normally you would trunk interface from a switch to another switch. Once there is a link, you want to trunk that link if you're going to run VLANs. Alright, so the way I designed this, these switches, all the ports running through all these VLANs, going through the access switches, the active ports on these switches are 23 and 24. So ports 24 link is on access switch 1, and port 23 link is on access switch 2. The same goes for this switch, this switch, this switch, this switch, and this switch. It's easy for management and for security purposes. Also, you want to have an understanding of what is going on within your network, basically. So what we're going to do, we're going to trunk those ports, alright, to have them properly functioning. So conft interface. Now you can do range here because they are close by. Alright, ANGE FA0 sorry, oh boy, FA0/23 to 24. Okay, there you go. Switch port or trunk. So those ports are now trunking. All right, now you want to shut this, and then you move on to the next interface, the next switch. This is pretty easy once you have an understanding of it. Conf-d, then you want to do interface range fa0/23 through 24. Alright, switch port SWR more trunk. Alright, close this out, feed in 300. You do the same for that. Conf-d okay, interface fa0/23 through 24. Okay, let's see what's happening here. Okay, interface fa0/23 to 24. This should work. This should work. I don't know why. Okay, let's find a way around it. So what you want to do, interface, oh okay, I'm missing the range. I got it. fa0/23 24. There you go. SW more trunk. Okay, sometimes these things happen, you get lost, and sometimes you go blank. Now you want to come on this next switch, conf-d interface range fa0/23 through 24, switch port more trunk. Okay, shut that, come here, enable conf-d interface range fa0/23 through 24, switch port more trunk. Okay, and now you come on this, conf-d interface range fa0/23 through 24. More. Okay, there you go. All right, now these links, they are all trunk links. Eventually what we're going to do also, we're going to enable spanning tree. Now with spanning tree, making this switch the core switch, so this could be, you could tweak the spanning tree priority and make this switch the root bridge, and this could be the backup designated root bridges, and you don't have to mess with these ones because they wouldn't do anything anyway. So the next step in configuring VLAN Trunking Protocol, you come on the core switch. Okay, now what you could do, you want to create a domain. Now is an administrative domain, meaning for administration. Basically you'll be able to manage all of your switches and through that domain. So if you come up here and you say VTP and then you put question mark, these are all the parameters. All right, so you see VTP domain, VTP more, password, and version. Now we'll talk about them one by one. So VTP domain, this is, you could name it in the real world, you found a proper name for that, but since this is a packet tracer, we could give it our own name, and that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna say codeswitch.com. all right, that is valid enough. You enter that. Now by default, all Cisco switches, they are all in server mode. So for instance, this switch is in server mode, and all the other switches, they are all servers. Now there are three modes within VTP. You got server mode. Within server mode, you get to create, modify, manage, and delete VLANs, configurations, and everything. The difference from server mode and client mode, you can do almost every server mode does everything that client do, but the difference is you cannot create, nor can you modify configuration or anything within client mode to have it propagated across the network. So basically, you can modify, create, and configure in server mode, right? But you can't do configuration or management if you turn the switch to a client. So since in fact this is our core switch, we're gonna make it our server. So VTP VTP mode server. Now just watch the prompt. You see that? Device mode already VTP server. That's the default. Now it is your responsibility to go and change those other switches to clients or transparent. The next mode of VTP is transparent mode. Now in transparent mode, VTP transparent mode keeps the database of VTP, so it sends out forwarding of a forward advertisements out of a strong link, but it doesn't act as a server, nor does it act as a client. That's why it's referred to as transparent mode. Now you want to set the password, VTP password. Password you're gonna set here gonna be the same passwords that's gonna be used across the network. You also want to be take note of that. So we're gonna use Cisco. Okay, VTP password is Cisco. All right, at you want to use version 2. Okay, and you also want to prune. The server switch. Now what pruning does is pruning helps in eliminating pruning unnecessary unicast and broadcast traffic on the network. This is a very nice tool also within this protocol. So you could do VTP pruning. Okay, it's not taking it, so let's see. VTP we can skip VTP, so let's do show VTP start and see what happens. Okay, So as you can see here, VTP version is version 2. Configuration revision is 1. Maximum VLAN supported locally 255. Number of existing VLANs 5. These are the default VLAN on the switch. VTP operating mode is a server mode. VTP domain, as you can see, is core.com as we did. VTP pruning, we will work on that later on. VTP version 2 mode is enabled. Now the next thing is to verify and see whether we have what's going on with these switches. So let's see. Show VTP start. That's what I'm talking about. Isn't this nice? Now can you imagine, from the core switch we have the configuration already here. Now what you want to do is, they are already within the same domain as you can see. So you see core.com, but it still is in server mode. You don't want that. You also want to set the password, also want to enable version 2. So that's what we're going to do. So conf, oh boy, okay. Now since they are in the same server mode, you want to say VTP password Cisco, okay. VTP mode client, all right. VTP version 2, okay. Do show VTP start. Now you see this is a client. The domain is core.com, which is nice. You also want to do that on this switch. They are all part of the same domain, but you need to set those parameters as well. Do show VTP start. Let's see, server mode, you don't want that. So VTP mode client, okay. VTP password Cisco. That's good. Now the same goes for these switches. It seems hard, but trust me, this is the best way around it. So show VTP start. Once you get all these parameters set up, the next step is easy peasy. VTP mode client, okay. VTP password Cisco, okay. That is good. Want to do this here too. VTP mode client, VTP password Cisco, okay. VTP mode client, VTP password Cisco, and on you go, okay. VTP mode client, VTP password Cisco. Isn't that nice? Next, VTP mode client, Alright, VTP password Cisco. Okay, I'm not sure I did all of them. Let's check this one. Nice. Okay, this one. VTP mode, client, VTP password Cisco. Okay, now the next step is, let's fast forward this. The next step is go back on the core switch, and now you get to create your VLANs and see them all across the network. So let's start with VLAN 100, 200, and 300. So VLAN 100, name, just name it VLAN 100. Okay, VLAN 200, name VLAN 200, VLAN 300, name VLAN 300. Okay, VLAN 400, name VLAN 400, VLAN 500, name VLAN 500, VLAN 600, name VLAN 600. Now here's the magic. Okay, and now show VLAN. See that? 100, 200, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now all the configurations were done on the core switch, but they will all be populated against all across the network, across the switches that are within your VTP domain. So do show VLAN. There you go. VLAN 100, 200, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. The same goes for this switch. Do show VLAN. That's the magic of VTP. It just makes administration very easy. We can take a peek at this switch and do the same. Do show VLAN. There you go. Cisco can go wrong, can they? So guys, this is where I want to stop. I'd like to thank you. Our next video, I'm going to configure STP, and I'm going to issue the initial basic switch security settings on the switches. I'd like to thank you for watching, and please kindly subscribe if you can, and that would just be nice. Until I talk to you again, I'd like to wish you the best of luck, and go ahead, give it a try, and let's see how far you go. Any questions, you can leave a comment down at the video. Once again, my name is Sadia, and I'd like to thank you for tuning in. See you around.